Welcome back, everyone, to part two of tonight's segment as 1021 Magazine covers the coronavirus. We're doing a week-long series with varied coverage. Now, part two is going to be a little bit more relaxed, but I don't want to lose the seriousness of locking yourself down, quarantine and chill, however you want to say it. But these are some very dire times. We had 800 people lose their lives today. That's our astounding numbers when you talk about loss of life. We are hearing from the podium of the president to various news sources, online, offline, that we are to brace ourselves for 100,000 to 250,000 more deaths in the United States. You know, I love a good action movie, and I love those movies that have the different themes of, you know, the world is coming to an end, or this and that. I mean, you know, those are the guilty pleasures for a lot of people, because never do you think that you are going to be in this type of situation. And this is like one of those films that you just are like, you know, with many people who say, I just wish for better news or anything like that. Whenever you have any type of adversity or just things you don't understand, you have to just face it head on, because it's all you can do. I mean, you're either going to face it head on, or you're going to be in some type of deep denial. You still have some people who feel like this coronavirus is a hoax. It's a man-made vaccine. It's not real. They're overblowing this out of proportion. It is your right to feel what you want to feel, but when the facts are there before you and you see people are dying, that's a real deal. No matter what you think is behind it, people are dying. So, you know, I often would just look at the different movies and I would say, gosh, what if this really happened to us? You know, and then, you know, this is not like aliens are coming to town or anything like that. This is a virus. This is a plague. It is an epidemic and a pandemic. What is the difference? Well, with the epidemic, that's pretty much in like one region, and pandemic is just like all over. And that is what we find ourselves in, because the coronavirus is just all over the place. So, you know, when you look at those films and stuff, I know my mother and other close ones used to say, you know, they're doing all these films and stuff like this, but you know, what if this becomes a real reality? What do we put out here in the universe? And it's not just what she said or I think, or it's a lot of people that thought that way. And now they look back on it and they was like, you know, there is no cut right now. Movie ended, script ended, done. Throw it in the theaters. You know, we have a box office hit. The hit is coming from how this virus has hit us all around the world, and we all are a part of this historical timeline, and we're living it. The question is, who will remain to tell the story? One thing about history, though, for anything that has ever plagued anybody, there's always someone left to tell the story. When I say like someone, not like someone, but like the someones. So I thought I would break down some of these epidemics tonight real quick, and have some theatrical music just to kind of chill us down. So if you're tuning in, I thought we would go with some dramatic music, just like how they do in the movies. And I'm not trying to make light or anything like that, but I did say that we're going to have varied coverages. It's not meant to just pour on the whole frightening attacks, but just to get some type of historical content, to have some chill moments, you know, and just go from there, because this is a very serious time that we are in. It's uncertain times, and the best thing that we can do is to keep ourselves protected is to self-quarantine, quarantine and chill, self-distancing, and just do what you need to do. All right, so let's get it. Isn't that how they always start in the movies, that dramatic music? And you find yourself using as much hand sanitizer than you ever have. The lawn needed cutting today, so landscaper came and he spoke on he's never washed his hands so much in his life. And just to keep everyone in the neighborhood yard straight, he's taking a risk just to keep having everyone's yard look like wild. So settle yourself in, good people. We're going to be talking about some plagues. Historical. We're in a real movie now. Everything that many of us have watched and enjoyed. How will you play your part? We owe it to those whose lives have been lost to respect our own lives even more so and do what we need to do. Self-distancing, quarantine, lock yourself down, be out when needed, complain less, and faith thought more. And come together. Because it's brace yourself. Brace yourself. We hope for the best. We stay optimistic. We stay full of faith. The reality is, we have not yet got a handle on the coronavirus. Okay, and isn't that just how, like, the movie goes off? Boom. But the curtain hasn't come down. And we are in the history of what others will read. Just as I'm about to do this list. So, welcome to the live stream. If you're live, you can chat. And if not, you can watch the live at a different time. Okay, so I'm going to put on here some Fearless, because I'm always talking about the faith and being of great faith and being of less fear. Okay? what we just heard was Last Heroes by it was called Dimensions by Last Heroes. And then up next we're about to hear Fearless Part 1, Part 2, and this is by Lost Sky. And then we're going to get on into these plagues. So I hope that you all have your essentials together. We want to send love to those in the medical profession. We want to send love to all of those who are on the law enforcement, and to others who have to be out there, you know, putting themselves at risk to keep us safe. And, you know, that includes the military. I don't want to really leave anybody out. The firemen and, of course, like the medical and those who work in retail and in the grocery stores, the pharmacists. I mean, you know, just, you know, those who are still open, where many of us who still pay our bills and stuff like that to the agencies who help people who need the help and are right now in a crunch. Those who are still waiting on their stimulus packages. Those of us who are getting out reporting, and those of us who are not, but we're reporting, and you know, we're doing it live remote from our homes. This has, you know, really taught us a lot of things, and I'm not going to touch too much on that, but I mean, it's a lot. You know, once we shut off the cameras and the live streams and the live remotes for giving our own coverages and stuff like that to the media family, you know, our work still goes on. We get a little bit of sleep and we're up and we're talking with other editors. We're talking with interns. We're trying to keep each other upbeat and abreast of what's going on. And we too are emotional for a lot of stuff, because it really does kind of work on the psyche. And I would be lying to say that if we didn't. I know, you know, just watching some of my fellow family in media, from local to major, it's a lot, you know, because you're trying to keep yourself together, you're trying to keep your loved ones together, and then you're trying to give as much accurate information. And the beauty about new media is the different digital sources that you have. You have here on YouTube, you have, I mean, just wherever you get your news sources from. And, you know, it's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, even when you're doing your reporting from your home, or a relaxed atmosphere, or if you're out and everything, because right now we're just dealing with something unknown. So anyway, we're just going to kind of ease it a little bit here, but please stay in the know for your preferred local news source, and stay in the know for your major news sources, and stay abreast for any of activity that you're going to do offline and online. And, you know, just keep yourself safe, and keep those loved ones around you safe, and check on people who may be alone. You know, you want, and then check on those. If you have people in the medical field, you want to check on those as well. Everyone that I know in the medical field, they're saying just the consistent saying, stay in as much as you can. From the word go, stay in as much as you can. So let's get in on this, and we're going to be talking about the different plagues and stuff like that. But yeah, the movies that we all enjoyed, and you know, some came with beautiful endings, and Others came with different endings that wasn't so great. And then now we find ourselves in the real reality. Just hearing on the news before we jump in on this and looking at other segments and stuff like that. I mean, you even have the Native Americans. You know, I'm Native, like many others, and they're using their lands to set up places for people to be at, because it's just that real with the amount of people who are sick and in need of help and all of that. So we've got to come together, and we can play our part in doing what we need to do, and that's by locking ourselves down and going out when we need to, and social distancing, and, you know, just hopefully you have some of the things that you need in your home to keep your immune system as great as possible. So let's just kind of get into this, and we're just going to go from there and talk about some of these plagues. And we're just going to do a first part of some of the historical plagues, and then we'll talk about others on tomorrow. Okay, that's Fearless. So I'm going to turn that down, and we're going to be talking about the different plagues. So we're going to go as far back as 430 BC. This was an epidemic. It was the plague of Athens. In the Mediterranean region, there was this big outbreak. The geographical location would be Greece, Mediterranean, all of that area. And it was an outbreak. The plague of Athens. The plague of Athens. However you want to say that. Then in 224 BC, in China, there was a plague infection. This was one of the first recorded events that far back. Then in 165 and 180 AD, there was the Antonine Plague, also known as Galen. And this was going on around in the Roman Empire. Some people say that it could have been a mix of smallpox mixed in with measles, and the deaths would be about 5 million. Killed about more than a third of the population there. Roman army. So all of this would be in the region of Iraq, Italy, France, Germany. Then in 250 to 270 AD, you have the plague of Cyprian. This is still around the same region of Rome. And it killed in the thousands, over 4,000. Not in the whole grasp of the plague, but about 4,000 to 5,000 a day. So we are talking about today, we had 800 people, souls to leave for the coronas pandemic, because it's all around the world now. This is 5,000 a day. We have not hit these numbers, and God forbid that we don't. And this was around in Italy. Then 540 AD, this is another epidemic. This is in the Ethiopian region around Egypt. And this plague, it took out a lot of people as well. No big name to it, but it was recorded. Then in 541 and 542 AD, there's another epidemic, the plague of Justinian. This one went toward the Mediterranean, and there were different outbreaks. It would come, it would go, it would come, and it would go. And overall, this plague would take out 25 million. Some people say that number was far-fetched, but that is the plague of Justinian, or Justinian. And this would be in the Mediterranean area. Then, in 542 AD, another epidemic. And this would be the Constantinople, which is today Istanbul. A day, the deaths would be 4,000 to 5,000 people. There are recorded histories saying it was even higher than that, 10,000. Over a third of the population would be wiped out. And this would be in the regions of Turkey. 543 AD epidemic. From Italy to Syria, Palestine, Iraq. This was a recorded plague. Then 627 AD, another epidemic. This would be a big wipeout of like 10,000 people. This would be the Sasanian Empire in the region of Iran. 1334, you would have another plague that would hit China. And this one, a lot of people are familiar with. This was the Black Death, also known as the Great Plague. It was devastating in biggest proportions because it went from epidemic to pandemics. One of the worst in the human history. It would annihilate 75 to 200 million people in the Eurasia area. Then in 1338 to 1339, you would have the bubonic plague. That is familiar to a lot of people. And this would still be in the throes of Asia. And then in 1345, you had a plague that would occur in Russia. And that took a lot of people out. Then in 1346, the epidemic would be the bubonic plague. And it would come to China again and India. That same plague would then spread to Constantinople in 1347, still considered an epidemic. And it would infect the Black Sea all the way to Russia. So that would be Turkey and Ukraine. And then in 1347, you would still have the Black Death. In that same year, Venice would be affected in that as well. So traders would go from one place to the next. So they would take that infection. And they said that it was Italian traders. And they would infest those ships that would come to Constantinople, to Sicily. And then that's when they would suffer the Black Death. And then it would keep trickling down. It would keep trickling down. It would keep trickling down. Because it would be passed from one to the next. And people would have different symptoms. And it would go on to just cover Italy. And it would keep going. And it would arrive in different other places. So that just started a trickle-down effect. And that's what will lead from an epidemic to a pandemic. And that is what is happening now with us, the pandemic. So, by the time you got to like 1349, they start talking about genocide, saying that the Jews would be where the fingers would point, saying they were responsible for the plague. And they would try to kill those who have their belief in God. And so the attacks would start happening. And this would be around the time in the regions of France and Switzerland. And this is where you would talk about the Strasbourg massacre and burned many Jews alive. And then Pope Clement, he would say to stop the violence of the Christians against the Jews. And then he would say in the quote, the plague is the result of an angry God striking at the Christian people for their sins. Then it would continue. 1351, the Black Death would reach Russia, Novgorod, Pskov, and then, unlike they're saying with coronavirus, when winter came, it shut down the spread of the epidemic, the virus. But they're saying heat shuts it down, and others say heat does not. We're still not getting a clarity of what is happening with the coronavirus. So when you don't have a handle on it, then you don't have a cure. So again, I reinforce locking yourself down. The Black Death, which is keep reaching from region to region, from 1374 to 1377, even into the 1400s. And then in the 1500s, then you had a new outbreak. The bubonic plague would resurface, and it would resurface in the Canary Islands, San Cristobal de la Laguna, on different islands. And this would be around in Spain. It would be 5,000 to 9,000 people that would perish. So I'm gonna play this music here and give us some chill.
There
Okay, I love that. That was Rob Gasser and Laura Brim, and that is Vertigo. All right, music is healing, I will say, in these times that we are facing, and these are some really, really uncertain times. Music is healing. Music on, world off, even if it's just for a little while. You want to stay in the know, keep abreast of what's going on, but then you don't want to just lose your whole groundness of sanity and all of that. Strike and find the balance. I love history, looking at history, looking back at a lot of these plagues. It's just that many of us, we never just found ourselves in these situations. But the recorded history tells a different aspect. So, this is where we're at, and this is what it is. So, we're going to keep some music going on here, and lessen the intensity before I'm out. And I thank you so much for locking in to the live stream whenever you're locking in. Okay. So the bubonic plague, just looking at all this history of the plagues. Take that down a little bit. When the bubonic plague came back into the Canary Islands, it took out like 5,000 to 9,000 people. And at the time, that's a lot. And they only had like almost just 20,000 inhabitants. And just to wipe out that many people. And so then, the Italian plague comes into play, 1629, 1631. This was an epidemic. And it was still remnants of the bubonic plague. The numbers that they're talking about today, for us to brace ourselves with, is what I'm seeing here. History. But that doesn't mean history will repeat itself. So we gotta keep our graphs and our wits about us. Took out about 280,000 people. That was killed in Lombardy and other parts of northern Italy. The Italian plague claimed over 35 to 69% of their population. So now Italy is going through it with the coronavirus history. Then the plague in Spain, the Great Plague of Seville, 1647, 1652. Then the Great Plague of London in the 1600s, 1665 to 1666, 100,000 people were killed within 18 months. That's over a year in the United Kingdom. 1679, the Great Plague of Vienna, 76,000 people in the region of Austria. 1720 epidemic, the Great Plague of Marseille, kills over 100,000 people in French city of Marseille. 1772, the Great Plague of London. They talk about that. There's a novel written by that. 1738, the Great Plague of 1738 kills about 36,000 people. And this would be in Romania, Hungary, Ukraine, Serbia, Croatia, Austria. The epidemic, 1772, 1850. And this would be a human plague from China, Yunnan. Third plague pandemic will begin in the 1860s. So then the plague spreads to Taiwan, to Guangdong. Then there would be a bacteriologist, Alexandre Yersin. and a Japanese bacteriologist, Shibasaburo Kitasato. They would isolate the bacterium that caused the bubonic plague, and they discover that rodents was the mode of infection, and the bacterium was named Yersinia pestis after Yersin. And this was in 1894. They finally came up with a scientific development that had taken out a lot of people. And so then you had another Russian bacteriologist, Waldemar Havkine. I hope I'm saying these names right. And he successfully protects rabbits against virulent plague of microbes. And this would be the first vaccine for the bubonic plague that would be developed. And the rabbits that were treated in this way became immune to the plague. And so then this would just go on. They would do their preparations, and then they would have a vaccine against the bubonic plague. And this would be in the Indian Bombay. And then it just goes on into 1899. We are just going to do 1899 before I'm out of here. In 1899, it was an epidemic, and this plague was introduced in Latin America, in Paraguay, then Brazil, then Argentina. And then after that, we start going into the 1900s, which I will do on tomorrow. Stay connected with us for dates and times. But this gives a really good indicator here. Sometimes you have to go back in history. Take a look at different bacteriologists, because that's exactly what is happening here with the coronavirus. It's the bacterial. Some type of bacterial vibrations that's coming through there, and then somehow making its way through the lungs and all of this. And so with technology at its height, with the brilliant minds that we have all over the world, do what you can and see if that works. If it's something out there that is working for you, share it. And that's the beauty of social media. I've already seen a lot of people share their different theories on how to combat what they feel is a cure-all or a cure enough, cure it, put it at bay for the coronavirus. I've seen everything from steaming, putting your head in a steamer to clear things up. I mean, to other different remedies that people have. Some people have their own adages and wisdom that comes from their ancestors, and they feel like maybe I should try this and this would be better. But the biggest thing that you can do is try and see whatever works for you. Share the information. You never know who, what, when, or where could collectively get a handle on what we are facing now. I send good vibes out to everyone. Thanks for locking in to this vibration. The coverage continues on tomorrow. And it is my prayer, it is my hope that we see the numbers go down. And do what you can where you are to help bring many of these numbers down. Because we're in this together. And so we're going to be doing some more researching. We're going to be doing some more coverage behind the scenes, and then get ready for more presentations right here on 1021 official YouTube. And again, you can follow the platforms where we will be loading up. And good vibes to us all. Love and light. So thank you so much for locking in to this vibration. I'm going to settle myself this evening with some heavy meditation. Then I'm going to watch a nice little classic movie. Then I'm going to get back to the journalist research aspect. But you got to find the balance. We definitely must take this all seriously because we got a wealth of information that's coming at us from different things. And there's a time and a place for everything. But we are seeing some moments and we all can come together and try and get a handle on this. So we are in the history. And let's see how we fare out in this history. Let's see what we do with what is before us. We have come so far in technology, and we have brilliant minds out there, and we have enough in social media for everyone to collectively at some point do what we can and share our information. And you have the right to question things, and you have the right to do what you need to do for you. Don't let it hit too close to home. Do what you can and find the balance, because we all are in the same boat, and that's collectively all over the world. I'm BEBE Davis. Thanks for locking in, and more to come. Peace and love, everybody.